Thank you. Welcome. I'm Andrew Burashko, the Artistic Director of Art of Time. Welcome to our last performance of Who Is We? It's been an extraordinary experience putting this together. Before we start, I would like to thank everybody who's been associated with this project, starting with the people who supported it, Harbourfront Centre, the Azrieli Foundation, the Metcalf Foundation, Valerie Koziel, the S.M. Blair Foundation, the Meehan Foundation, Roger and Kevin Garland, and Aniko Baer. I would also like to thank Slate Family Foundation, BMO, the Toronto, Ontario and Canada Arts Councils, and Yamaha Canada. I would like to thank everybody connected to the Writers Collective, from the writers to the facilitators, to Susan Turk, who started these workshops here, the Writers Collective of Canada. I'd like to thank the extraordinary musicians you'll be hearing on stage, the remarkable creative team, and particularly I would like to thank Daniel MacIvor, the director, who helped shape this. So without further ado, I would like to invite Daniel to give the land acknowledgement.
Good evening. I have been asked to do the land acknowledgement, and so I will start by telling you that my name is Daniel MacIvor, and I come from fifth and sixth generation Scottish settlers, MacIvor and MacLean respectively, who came from the Outer Hebrides on the northwest coast of Scotland and settled in Unama'ki, colonially known as Cape Breton Island, where I was born and raised, and now I've made my home here in Toronto for the last 30 years, or Toronto, which is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples. So that is a typical land acknowledgement, a simple stating of truths, but some would question how that truth reaches toward any reconciliation. And that is a question that is interrogated beautifully in a poem that I would like to share with you tonight. This poem was introduced to me by my teacher at the University of Toronto, the scholar and theater practitioner Jill Carter, who is also the dramaturge of this production tonight. I'll read a few short sections of the poem. The whole poem is available online through your favorite search engine. It was written in 2010 by settler, scholar, and playwright Clint Burnham, and it is called No Poems on Stolen Native Land. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on stolen land. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on borrowed land. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on overdue land. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on pickpocketed land. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on empty land. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on full land. I'd like to acknowledge the knowledge of like to acknowledge, you like me acknowledging. I'd like to acknowledge drinking a glass of water 10 minutes ago and not having to boil the water first. I'd like to acknowledge ice on the inside of the walls when I lived in Labrador in the 1970s as part of the military occupation of Inuit Indian land. I'd like to acknowledge my word processing program just capitalized the I in Indian just now and did it again. I'd like to acknowledge that what I like about what I'd like to acknowledge is that it's about me, a sensitive liberal, a tough but sensitive radical, looking good, new shirt. Do you like these jeans? They were on sale. Are they too tight? They were when I bought them, but now I need a belt. Am I too old to wear this shit now? And what I'd like to acknowledge is that I don't like it if I drink too much. I'd like to acknowledge that this is getting way too personal even for me. So I'd like to get back to acknowledging that we were on stolen, Native, Indigenous, Indian, Injun, Skmo, Chug, Métis, First Nation, half-breed land. We are on Native land, on Native carpet, on Native subflooring, on Native foundation, on Native weeping tiles, on Native tarmac, on Native sidewalk, on Native dirt, on Native leaf mold, the good mold, on Native mud in our backyard, on Native holes in the ground where our fence was ripped up by the landlord. Well, not the landlord, guys working for a guy working for the landlord. Maybe they were Native, I don't know, I didn't ask them. We're on Native highway of tears, on Native land, on home and Native land, and I'd like to acknowledge that acknowledging that we are on stolen, ripped off, colonized, unceded, conquered, begged, borrowed, stolen Native land does not make a damn bit of motherfucking difference, and I just like to acknowledge that. Clint Burnham, No Poems on Stolen Native Land.
Thank you, Susan and Richard Moser, and my children. My name is Dee Hope. 10 years ago, Susan Turk Moser walked into the Toronto Friendship Centre, located at Sherbourne and Dundas Streets, the hardest shelter in Toronto. I was grieving the loss of my grandmother, who I loved dearly. Facing the rigorous street life of very marginalized individuals, chronic homelessness, addiction, trauma, extreme violence, and sexual exploitation. Small, intimate workshops began at the Toronto Friendship Centre. It was not about literacy, race, sex, age, status, religion. It was about writing and inclusion, finding your voice, where you are at. That was powerful. Writing with others and hearing their voice, I found a home, a voice, a community, and my true inner self, worthy of things people take for granted. The metamorphosis began. H-O-P-E, hope, help other people excel. That's my name. And that's what the Writers Collective of Canada means to me and others. WCC writing workshops changed my life and so many lives of others, witnessed and celebrated. I am a writer, facilitator, published author, the first writer in the WCC. I'm honored to share with you where redemption and transformation have taken place, my witness to a prompt, encouragement, the release of my words hitting the page. Allow me the honor to share with you the impact of writing with writers that are too many to count. JR was raped by her stepfather, tossed out of the family, her baby taken, a silence trauma. In the writing workshops, she shared her secret, one halting paragraph at a time. Literacy was a problem leaving school at 14, but she kept writing about her lost son, gaining the courage to find him 30 years later and reunite. The stunning impact of connecting the missing pieces through words. We called him Dr. Love, the man about the streets, always a smile on his scarred face. His comedic side of life did not hide his addiction. Crack was my wife. I married her. Alimony was steep. Writing helped him to stop paying the price. He wrote about this in his last words in our workshop, a happy memory of his lost long daughter. He died a short time later, but said that was the happiest day. As participants listened to his words, he was a happy writer. I remember two Indigenous individuals. Both wrote about being separated at a young age. Their writing, similar memory, the writing was powerful with visual impact. 6 children were removed. As it turned out, they were siblings who were so young and so broken. After that magical workshop, we witnessed firsthand the reuniting of those 2 children. They became fixtures, encouraging others, Indigenous writers, to share their stories and their lives. We learned about sacred land and the repatriation of separation. BM was from Pakistan, a retired taxi driver. Here for 25 years, he barely spoke English, and yet he was one of the first in the workshops, always asking for prompts, which he learned to recite in proper English. He wrote in his first language and read in his first language. He titled his writings Prayers. I witnessed two brothers who had not spoken but were here in the same shelter, both gang members from different gangs, embrace each other after sharing their stories about growing up and the abandonment of their mother, friends, and the system. One young woman wrote, "Deep red scars could not take away the pain of rape. Relived on paper that frees me to write from the place where I'm understood. No longer foreign to my tears, I find peace when I write. I am a writer. I am somebody. I matter." The past 10 years have been about growth, sharing, caring, empowering myself and others to write my truth, being poised to hear the truth of others. I am a writer. Who am I? Who am I? The music of my heart speaks to you. I will tell you more. I am the rhythm that speaks to your mind, the bass in your face, funk replaced. I am the quiver, time symphonically to your size. You thought you would deny? I am the picture painted with timeless renaissance, like the reggae beat in your eardrums, jamming the truth of the blues. Emancipate yourself in rhythmic syncopation. Free your mind. Tune into my prime real estate of soul. I'm the song of your fears felt inside. The words captured my tears, released the pride. The love that would not die. Why? Just don't go through the motion when I rock you from side to side. Put a pep in your step, aligned and timed. Feel the rhythm of my sighs. The drumbeat of my existence, throbbing your inner core. Now realizing you are wanting more. The music, the story, the song, the permeated truth. Who am I? I am the rhythm of your soul. Now alert to the pain you cause. Acoustically forlorn? Who am I? I am the song that lives on. Let it be. No woman, no cry. I'm the music born in your thighs that penetrates your body, soul, and mind. Still current, often remembered. Ain't no mountain high enough for me. Just standing there, music all around me. I am the music, songs of freedom proclaimed. Who am I? I am the song in my music, the rhythm sustained. I am the woman who loves my children, life, and music. He never loved me. The music is alive in me. I am music.
Final pilgrimage. 1. The before. We were joy, togetherness, open roads, revisiting those not taken, hooves of horses on cobbled roads, turning of wheels with turning of days, bridges framed by sunsets. Memories snapped of imperfect poses in bodies alight with laughter. A butterfly with a broken wing landed on you to reach the flower, and your smile blossomed. Hello. This too we created. I cherish the us before. Two, the deering. You left for your final pilgrimage that first day you closed your eyes, while I dreamt for the both of us of you waking and walking away together, hand in hand with me, out of your barless prison of a bed. Enclosed by these constricting walls, with a window without a view, in the room where regret collected, like a film of dust shrouding our hopes and memories. In the abandoned home of your body, like a queen discarding yesterday's garments, like a horse leaving behind its master's carriage. Immobile in slumber, you kept yourself hidden as you prepared for your journey alone and waited for me to wish you on your way as hours turned to days, to months, and tears to years, while my fears hid my words from my courage. You stayed serenely asleep, undisturbed by this maddening world, as awaiting patiently to be wakened by magic things, like the fairy tales you would read to me. I tried to keep you, just for me, pinned to my heart by the thorns of my unyielding grief, unable to shape my tongue, to bloom into forms unwilling and unknown. The muteness of your trapped pain spoke louder than the moans and groans filling the sterile, empty hallways. I refused to hear, and you refused to wake. Impasse. The liminal space expanded so that it ate the living to sustain itself. This was our existence. Did you dream of falling golden leaves as I played you music in the language of your mother's lullaby? I clasped the thread we had made, you and I, at the beginning of our time. I clasped it with my drowning, tainted hands as I crashed into the jagged, rocky shores, turning my sorrow into howling rage, darkening the skies around me with my punishing storm. But you slept through it all, in deafening silence. They showed me your mind. It was like a supernova. I was blindingly lost in its formlessness. Behind your shuttered eyes lives the infinite black universe, waiting for me to awaken from my own slumber and free the words that would free the stars to guide the way to your final pilgrimage. Duga Maduga. May you be with me always. Three, the after. I went searching for the happily ever after the always. And then what happened? I asked the memory of you, not wanting our story to end. I finally felt you say, now you tell me the story of dawn after her sun has set.
monarch machinations. On one of my morning lake walks, I was surrounded by monarch butterflies. It was one of those moments that I knew would lead into deep thoughts for days, and that this was not an isolated incident. I took the narrower path, which was closer to the water. The brackish, lapping liquid reached out from my left, and rich foliage came up to my shoulders. I saw a flash of color and recognized, holding on to a slim branch, a silent anchor. The wind blew furiously, and she seemed unfazed. Tiny legs clung, and wings locked together in a stance of defiance. It was beautifully inspiring. I have come to understand that sometimes the wind is used to make our wings stronger. The other lessons from the butterflies unfolded on my walk, much like the tiny teacher emerging from a cocoon, a sudden emergence of color. It is fascinating that they carry the poison from the milkweed, an interesting oxymoron in itself, inside their bodies, where it acts as a defense mechanism. We all carry our poisons inside us. The manner in which we view it, how we carry it, and whether we choose to kill others with it or not is up to us. What were my poisons? Feelings of abandonment, childhood sexual trauma, and its cold, gaseous tentacles. I carry the knowledge of those things, the poisons, and I have used it to make me stronger, better, and more valuable to others. It feeds my wings with oxygenated blood to travel long distances, and I'm able to help others to soar when they are ready. I have children for whom I have an innate sense of protection. You see, I know the language of those who choose to hurt children. I'm able to share them with their dad without feeling abandoned or somehow less, because I have chosen better for their sake. There was a time when I would drag alone all the way to lonely. When I did, I would call to myself people, situations, and experiences which only exasperated my state. I am now mindful of the agendas with which I enter the lives of others, as well as their agendas for mine. I'm experientially qualified to help my friends in depressed states. I have a library of solutions I can suggest which can be beneficial. Several of them have been. It is humbling to have a bag of tools that others can use effectively for phenomenal results. This is similar to the monarch's sense of community. During cooler temperatures, they come together for the good of all. They take turns braving the cold so that all may get some warmth. Similarly, when others are experiencing a season of discomfort, we can share our stories, braving vulnerability as a form of service. As the butterfly transforms, it knows that it carries the poison and uses it as a positive. Summer metamorphosed into autumn. The butterflies were my constant companions. Are you sitting? No. Please sit. I wanted to let you know that Granny died this afternoon. On the day that my grandmother died in England mourning for me, a beautiful orange messenger came right to my window as if to whisper to me. I remember smiling at the sight of her. When my dad delivered the news, I kept that bit to myself. Our final encounter that summer was on a quiet, shady street in the city. Yes, those exist. A friend and I walked leisurely while engaged in a conversation about personal growth. I came to a halt, mouth agape, in mid-sentence. There was a monarch butterfly on the sidewalk. It was dead. I picked it up gently, placed it in a napkin, and brought it to my home. It sits on a white rose. It's beautiful orange and black, a beautiful contrast and pop of color, a prominent, unpalatable prophet.
Ruptures. So, if you really want to know who I am, I need to introduce you to someone. She's really close to me. On some level, she understands me, but I don't understand her. I don't know her. She's known me for many years. I never wanted to know her. But she's persistent, she's relentless, she's unapologetic. She gets to the core of people, and that's why they like her. All my friends love her, sometimes to the point where I'm wondering if they love her more than they love me. Because when they tell me about the things that they like about me, they're talking about her, which is insane because she's insane and they know it. When I say she gets to the core of people, I mean she fights to know you. She asks questions no one in their sane mind would ever ask, and in that moment, she relishes in the hesitation that question produces. In that second, she's judging whether or not you trust her enough to be vulnerable, to be naked with honesty. Because that's what she wants from people. Your weakness, your secrets, your life story. Because once that's given, there comes the illusion of responsibility, a deception that you will mistake for intimacy. But it's a magic trick. Misdirection, a gesture of false empathy that will get you hooked, that will make you believe she cares about your story, but she doesn't. All she wants are subplots. All she wants are anecdotes and imagined characters to fulfill her grand narrative where she's both villain and protagonist because that's how egotistic she is. She's also a nymphomaniac, like wildfire devouring everything on sight, a homing missile that won't stop until you've been used up, spent up, and shattered into tiny little fragments so microscopic you can hardly believe it was once you. A physical and mental kind of explosive exhaustion that will keep you barely alive, barely breathing, wide-eyed and wondering why she didn't text you the next morning. And that's okay if it wasn't malicious. If her intent wasn't rooted in deceit, because for her, it's about power. It's about regaining something once violently taken from her, reframing the trauma so that she can take it from everyone else. For a night, she's in control. For a night, she's guiltless, renewed, invincible. Like no man can wring her heart and make her believe their lies because she's the one lying, she's the one using, she's the one bestowing violence, bestowing pain, and she won't stop. She won't stop until you're dancing the dance of learned helplessness so smoothly, so easily, even knowing the whole time it means nothing because you mean nothing. Do you see how easy it is? How easily people can lie with their actions, how easy it is to fool someone into thinking you love them to protect yourself from isolation and loneliness, to use people's weaknesses to distract everyone else from finding out you're just a mistake. In the span of an entire evening, 6 hours can be so fleeting. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like to be the devil. I know this hurts. But I have to keep going because if I stop, I won't know how to start again. And this conversation is so important for us to have if we ever want a real chance at a relationship. Because I've spent so long writing fiction, I forgot how much of my life is embedded in truth, if there is a truth, in all of this hypocrisy, in all of this insanity. Because the sad truth is I'm scared. I'm afraid to tell you more. I know you know she's me, They tell me she's me, but I don't want to believe it. Because how do you ever convince yourself there's a demon inside you just waiting to respond, waiting for a decrease in your lithium and Seroquel, waiting for the day you forget your bag in someone else's house and realize you have no medication to take in the morning? Do you see how easy it is? Do you see how easy it is for her to come out? It just takes one mistake and she's free. And there's nothing I can do to grip her in silence, to bind her back in her prison, even if that prison is me. And how can I convince you I'm a good person? How can I convince you I'm still worth loving when I know this poisonous, toxic cadaver of a woman is inside me, just waiting to take over my mind like an infection, like a parasite that talks for me, thinks for me, acts for me, while all I can do is sit back and gaze from eyes that were once mine, watch her destroy everything I worked so hard for while I still had control. And then I wake up, and my job, my friends, my family, all gone, just like that. I am now a stranger to my own life. My life is in my hands, I grip it. It's so familiar to me. I know this story, I've lived it, but it's written in a language I no longer understand. My doctor says, find yourself within the mania. Find yourself within the depression. You're still you even when you're manic. You're still you even when you're depressed. All you have to do is recognize her. Like it's so easy. Like it's a 12-step process I can separate into columns left and right. Mania versus depression, imagination versus hallucination, superpower versus delusion, self-reflection versus voices in my head, me versus bipolar versus schizophrenia. Because pardon me if I don't want to find me in sleepless nights, paralyzing nightmares, and self-destructive behavior. If I don't want to find myself waking up in a bed wondering how people can keep lying to themselves about living lives without wanting to die. Because suicide for me isn't an option. It's not appealing, it's not sexy or romantic, it's about survival. And make no mistake about it, my fear of death never goes away. In fact, it's the only thing constant in my otherwise fucked up collection of mistakes and poor life choices. The thing that changes and grows inside me is a terror that goes beyond death. It's the fear of the everyday, of waking up in the morning and realizing I have to face another day and fight when it's the last thing I ever want to do. And there's no escaping it because it's inside me. It is me. I'm afraid of me. My mind is sick. My mind is betraying me. And the only thing I can do, in the few months that I'm sane, I become a hero of truth. I am the lie slayer. Truth, I'm obsessed with you. You're mine now for this page and the next and the next and the next. I'm truth addicted, truth enslaved, truth imprisoned. I can't live without it. I can't breathe without it. It's the only thesis that runs through my mind while I'm lining up inside countless emergency rooms, inside disinfectant-smelling hospital walls. It's that passion for truth and the longing desire for it that keeps my heart beating, that keeps my adrenaline flowing inexplicably, undeniably. I will fight for it. For I am born with 2 fists so that I can keep them forever clenched, so that I may forever wave them at the kings and queens of fiction and madness, along with a throat that keeps screaming to anybody that would listen. This is who I am.
Family, the F word. When I hear the word family mentioned, I want to say, fuck off or die. or FOOD, food for short. I hate my family, all of them, for what they did to me, for what they denied me, for who they are, for how they neglected me on purpose, how they seem more than anything to be just cruel, withholding cheapskates. I am ashamed of all of them. I am also ashamed of where I come from. The word family immediately conjures up all kinds of negative, painful, lonely experiences for me. I feel like a time bomb is ticking inside of me, ready to go off on those who ask, "Do you have family here? Where are your family? Are you close to your family?" My answers in order are no, I don't know or care, and no, I am not. If the paragraph above offends you, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but if it shocks you, good. Because sometimes people need to be shocked to recognize a reality they cannot see. The fact is, not everyone has a loving, supportive family. I didn't from the time I was 2 years old. There's a lot of us in the world, and I think I can speak for them in conveying what we feel about this topic. Number one, we hate hearing about everyone's happy, close-knit family experiences. These descriptions choke us inside. They poison us. They make us bitter, and we don't want to be bitter. We don't want to be isolated and kicked while we're already down, exactly because we don't have anyone to call family. Yet we consistently kicked when we're down in this way. And worse, silenced by people when we try to describe our own experiences. I'm not saying that the people who do this are being malicious. They're just ignorant. Here's what I and countless people like me hear all the time. I don't know what to say, and I can't imagine not having a loving family. Comments like this seem to be sympathetic, but in fact, they're the opposite of real empathy or compassion. Here's what true empathy and compassion sound like. Is there anything I can do to make you feel better? How can I include you in my life? What would including you in my life look like for you? Or simply, I am here for you. People like me almost never hear this. Instead, we get comments of commiseration, comments that say, "We're sorry for you and that's terrible." These comments aren't helpful because they ignore the sharpest ache we suffer, the shame of isolation. This is message number 2. From us to you out there. Not having what you take for granted makes us feel stigmatized like scapegoats. We feel less than people. Not only are we unloved, but we're often unloving because we never learned any other way. If you lack empathy and compassion in dealing with us, we lack it in dealing with others, and we know we lack it, which makes us feel even smaller and more flawed. In the end, it feels as though we are considered diseased for not having loving, supportive, warm families. From where we stand, we're shunned, blamed for our lot in life, and emotionally isolated because of it. To be diseased for us is to be diseased. We are without peace or ease, at a loss, unsettled, empty, and always to us feels alone. All of this adds up to one simple, sharp result. It hurts. So here's the final message to you from all of us, from who the word family means something very different from what it means to you. If you found yourself chatting with a group of people that included some people who had lost their legs, you probably would avoid talking about the joys of running and jumping. So the next time you're talking to a group of people that includes some people you don't know, and you just get an itch to brag about your perfect, wonderful families, think about the invisible wounds some of the strangers around you might be living with. Then change the subject, please, or FOOD.
Stop. Stop a moment. Stop a moment. Stop a blessed moment. Please gather round right here and right now. Listen up if you please. I invite those with eyes to see or ears to hear to gather round and listen up here, thanking you for your time. Like Socrates waiting for his chalice of hemlock, Plato and me being the mouthpiece. I'm standing here on the stage with a grinning thrill and a touch of the master's quill. So please, please, gather round. We're here so close. You see, I am a geriatric rapper with irritable bowel syndrome. I have shit to say, and it hurts coming out. I don't think that hope should be considered a noun as much as a verb with a frown. We have collected here as a hive to juke and puke and jive, working bees until at least 5. Can you taste the honey drip around the art and science of time immemorial? Good time, bad time, wasted time, your sweet time, blessed time on company time, scheduled to be there or fro. It's not my time to go. Semicolon. The sentence is complete, even as we have more life to live. The science of time just ain't what it used to be. I often wonder if time could not be measured. Tick-tock, said the clock with the measured clock. If time could not be measured, would it still be the same thing with a happy New Year ring? Notwithstanding, possibly could be just a thought. However, furthermore, with all due diligence and without prejudice, all that being said and maybe more, the art of time is surely splendid stuff. Time in a bottle, keeping time to a jig, getting my timing in order. I love the song with pentameter, I'm all thumbs all the time. Hey, diddle diddle, your cat's with a fiddle, similar to a rolling riddle. I once dated a bronze beauty with long flowing blonde curls. She was fond of saying, let's spend some money and save more time. I suggested once for her perfect satin pillows that just maybe, just possibly, we might consider saving some money and spending more time. We have not talked since, which is a shame, since I've really enjoyed her pillows, warm to the touch they were. Time, gentlemen, please, a pig with a whistle, enjoy yourself, it's later than you think. Late inning beer rush, silly seconds, stupid jingles a jingle. There seems to me to be 3 different types of folks doing their time. We have the aristocrat, full of duty and dullards, sitting around in their powdered wigs, wasting away daddy's hard-earned passed-down estate. Time poorly spent, waiting for a polo match with cucumber finger sandwiches. Quite a boring lot, holding all that weight in the seat of their pants. Nothing to do, just waiting for scandal to pop up at any old moment. Then we have the bourgeoisie, production. The keeper of all that is, just you wait and see. New and improved trinkets that everyone must have. I am curious, is a toilet brush made in China really any different than an original made in Biloxi, Mississippi? I don't know if they make such things in Biloxi, Mississippi, but I really, really like saying Biloxi, Mississippi. There, I said it again and again, the factory owner in a dog-eat-dog world. Money is all he cares for. It's more of the same, more of the same. Profit margin stooges making even Ebenezer Scrooge pray God. Make a fourth dimension of time. Which brings me to the proletariat. Counting your seconds for the longhorn blows. Laborers worth their hire, wandering about the Shire as if they're on fire. Everybody loves the poor until the wretches camp upwind in the springtime, living hard, hoping for a soft landing. More on this idea later. All three use time artistically different, a telling expression one way or the other. The monarch waiting to be buried in a crypt. The businessman squeezing every second dry. The working man humming a beat, pure and sweet. Mine eyes have seen the coming of the Lord. Or maybe you would rather. Can't wait to get to heaven on roller skates. The art of time, from cotton fields to prison cell glee clubs. Have you ever been in a clock shop at 12 bells? Your number's up. It's pure heaven. Nothing in the known universe, absolutely nothing does art quite like humans. You, me, all of us. In fact, in my not so humble opinion, that is what we do. We make art. Yes, we do. We make artistic expression in every conceivable way. Just you wait and see. I do not believe in science, not in a box or with a fox. I believe in mathematical droppings. The formula keeps changing. The only fact that works for little old me at the very least is gravity. A heavy little subject bound by time and space. Or as Albert called it, space-time, all one word. It works every time, stumbling over a crack, breaking my mother's back. Or maybe take a tumble and pick the rubble out of my forehead. Now that is really humble. Now, since we are gathered around, I urge you to consider, please, the art of time has no past or any future. It is in this moment. See there? It is gone. No, wait a sec. There it is again. Sitting here waiting for somebody to say, did you see that? Or maybe more selectively, I've never quite heard it put that way. So I beg you, please stop and smell the roses. Tell me about the fragrance from your own personal vantage point. Don't you see? Granny used to say, my baby boy, life is like a rose bush. It can be overwhelmingly beautiful. However, it takes a lot of compost, and you'd better be aware of the bricks. A rose, by any other name, still smells as sweet. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. The art of a rose bush in the breeze. Please, 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 bend over and give me a squeeze. The art of time. Nobody does time the same, quite the same as you and I. avenue larger with each passing moment. Stop a moment. Tick tock. We're all on the clock.
Svasam. When I breathe, I exhale my ancestors who held their own breath to survive, to get through the night, to the next day, the next generation, and the next. And that ever-expanding zephyr carries more of my lineage. Each exhalation adding a new essence to the first breath. Some silent, prowling for sustenance. Others fearful, careful to squelch any sound in the quiet chaos between bombings, sweating uncertainty about escape, about survival. But they did it. I am here. So they collectively sigh, we made it. We are the key. We are the key. The new home we've been aching for. Forging severed connections, opening shut doors to lost knowledge, modern science, whatever it may be. We are the key. Colonizers brought unprecedented gore, systemic violence, dehumanization unlike ever before. Stolen lands, shattered borders, Trojan trades, broken treaties. We are the key. Now we dust off ashes, rediscovering things known before. Help save what hasn't eroded, we earnestly implore. Is there a point? Is it all gone? Is it too late? But you see, we are the key. Recovering lost remedies is no easy chore, but by connecting all groups lost from ways of yore, to blend new with old, expanding our family tree, we are the key. Without appropriating cultures beyond our shores, or watering down practices you claim to adore, let folks native to these traditions lead competently. We are the key. With the world aflame, it's time to restore pre-colonial practices we can no longer ignore, and bring the best of present day, for certainly, we are the key. By unlocking these gates, unifying people more, removing harmful embellishments to get to the core, we can create an idyllic world because most importantly, we are the key. I am from much more than one can hold. I am from a land of harsh terrain and resilient people, a broken land and unhealed immigrants, a people holding on to what they can of their culture, their home, and their language, in a land that does not want them, in another land that was stolen, and on other lands that broke the rest of the world. I am from two worlds meshed into one, from the saltiness of a sandy serendipitous shore and its inland's red ferric soil to the polluted fresh water by Scarborough's tall bluffs, from savory curries infused with spices and coconut milk to greasy beef burgers and thick-cut home fries, from poverty and rich experiences, both earned and from unasked for privilege. I am from my two first languages, Tamil by blood, English for sustenance, and also from the others that fed my soul. From the romance of Europe to the respectful politeness of the Far East. I am from music and paints and doodles and numbers, but most of all, I am from words, whether those made flesh or dust particles mixed with the Om from the biggest bang in creation. Words seen, unseen, familiar, and not understood. I am the words of the universe, in all its diverse languages and infinite expressions.
Reflection on Being a Chinese Psychic Sherpa by Kan Chung. My family's hunchbacks sit around the dinner table, sitting at the edge of their chairs, never leaning back. The all too small town home is devoid of anything reflecting our Chinese heritage, except for a calendar with a shiny fork embossed in gold over red. My parents picked it up from the grocery store and it's been hanging awkwardly on the wall ever since. I'm silent, staring down at my bowl of rice. Body tense, pretending to be calm, holding fear within my 70-pound frame. At 8 years old, my eyes have learned to focus on my food rather than look up. Refusing to acknowledge the reality, the pain, anger, and shame that's happening less than 2 feet away from me. The table suddenly feels smaller. My immigrant father had faced the harshness of adapting to a new culture and language, and had berated my mama, maternal grandmother, for her cooking for the 3rd time that week. The food didn't taste bad, or was too salty, or was too little. The food smelled too much, too ethnic. Fried fish, stir-fried chicken with soy sauce and garlic filling the air was too different from our other Canadian food. Was it the oil and fried food lingering in the air that made my father's yelling shake the glassware and raise the hairs on my arms? I think it reminded my father of how different our family is. How different he is. This scene repeated and taught me to hate the pieces of me that are different from our white neighbors. The facial features, accents, clothing, and even haircuts cause them to look at us with disgust or ridicule when we did not conform to normal white society. At school the next day, eager for the leftovers, even if tainted with last night's scene, it still tasted good, and I was hungry. I open my lunchbox, look around, and I see my other classmates and hear them laughing, covering their mouths, and see they're pointing at me. More specifically, my lunch. They're not so quiet guesses at what the smell coming from my lunchbox floated in the air. The heart of a pig, fish eyes, chicken feet. I did enjoy eating these things, but I knew the giggles and whispering were meant for heart, not curiosity. Red heat creeps to my ears and cheeks. Chewing fiercely, I I eat my lunch to make it disappear from sight, from smell, to act that this reality never existed. After a few instances of this, I told my mom how I wish they could make me more Canadian, that is white, meals, so I could fit in. My mom, also trying to conform to the normal, began making me sandwiches. For the next 10 years, I would have the same lunch every single day. 2 pieces of white bread with ham or butter in between. One day I came to school particularly proud and happy. I brought the coveted lunchable set to school. My value and validation tied into how well I could blend in with the white kids. I always saw any of the kids that were white as the cool kids. I wanted them to like me and tried my best to not offend them. As my wife, who is also Chinese, and I walked down a much more reserved and anxiety-filled young street, our home. Swaggering towards us are 3 older white men looking for a fight, looking for someone to blame. The pandemic has been hard for everyone. I turned toward my wife to express my excitement about enjoying a cup of coffee outside of the house and just catching up with her. Before I can open my mouth, I hear, "It's your fault we're in this mess. Go back to China," hurled at us. I forget the coffee. I forget our plans. Forget that this is our home. I remember our otherness, the fragility of my self-esteem. Remember our place as Asian. I again, seeking not to offend our white neighbors, stay quiet. Instead of feeling indignation and anger of injustice, my first thought is to wish I didn't look different. I wanted to conform and be accepted. We continue down the street, but somehow it's different. Less safe, less like home. My heart rate is still high. That's no longer from the excitement of spending the afternoon with my wife, rather it's the anxiety of feeling like an outsider. Fearing other people will verbally project their fear onto us. Avoiding eye contact, I fake a smile to my wife and say, "Were those guys talking to us? So weird." Am I trying to convince myself that didn't shake the foundation of my being? My shoes now lead each step. I no longer feel my body, and I'm hyper attentive of myself and how I may be perceived. My head stays down, but my eyes bounce demurely from face to face. The white faces trigger me. A memory of sitting through some of my friends' travel pictures of China. I stay quiet while an older white family member makes a joke about how everything in China must have MSG. Another white face, another memory of sitting at a restaurant, looking around anxiously, trying not to be too loud. My thin-soled shoes continue to carry me forward. I'm on the phone with the hotel's front desk, trying my best to reduce my accent to receive the regular level of service and treatment as my white counterparts. I feel like another needy Asian person when asking our hotel room to be cleaned properly and to give us a few extra towels. My old martial arts instructor, I've been excited to receive my black belt certificate after 10 years of being with that club. My excited face lost its color as I opened the folder, and the white certificate had a name scrawled in black italics. A name I didn't recognize. Kenny Chong. For 10 years, I've been seeing those white coaches week after week, and I grew accustomed to the name that they gave me. I don't explode. Microaggressions compose my daily life and chip away at my self-esteem even more so. Where even my own identity does not consist of my real name, but rather the ones that my white neighbors gave me. Each memory places psychic weight on my shoulders. I do my best to stay hidden. I hope to stay unknown. Hope that the white folks don't see our color and immediately attribute the stereotypes associated. See? We're different from the other East Asian people, I would telepathically say to those around me, hoping to be accepted. As I walk through my memories and aim for the coffee shop, each step becomes more heavy than the last. The experience of trying to solely carry the burden of what my family and ancestors before me experienced adds extra weight. Even my most well-intentioned white friends and colleagues are unable to feel the load of what we, as Chinese people, carry with us daily. They won't ever feel the stares of judgment that we feel in public spaces. After 10 minutes of awkwardly having this conversation, pretending what happened to us didn't happen, we've reached the coffee shop. I no longer feel excitement about being here. It is now more like an obligation than a desire. But the heat of my flat white, my wife's favorite espresso, going down my throat from the blue-colored lid on the paper cup stirs something up in me, wakes me up from my inner slumber. I want to set my backpack down, and I feel the weight lifted from my shoulders. Around me, I see the invisible burdens of the colored folks sitting and walking around me. They're unable to put down their psychic weight from their shoulders. At that moment, I do not want to be a psychic Sherpa any longer. I do not want to fear judgment and maltreatment for how I look and what accent I may have. I want to display the color red and my heritage with pride in my home, so that my future children can be proud of who they are. I want to build a bridge between my family and myself, to also make them feel complete and valued without needing to be white. But this work, telling my story, takes work. And by sharing my own story and letting my voice be heard, I'm hoping to be able to share the load just a little more with the world. I open my mouth and speak.
Tribe of the small hands. It's the hands that break my heart. Little hands like mine. Not now. Now they're big hands, really. But then I remember having such small hands, Such small hands that Cummings wrote a tribute to such small hands. What if those children lived? What about the ones that survived? No child who has small hands really wants to leave Mummy. And if there's a dad, I never would. Think back to the early days of this country, not beyond imagining, back when there were no schools, but then the white man came, and all he brought with him. Then there was government and these stone buildings. When was that? Say 1868, 1900, before the war to end all wars. God almighty, the lies those white men told. And my goodness, that would be about the time my grandfather was born, as a tall white man to a woman who spoke French. Or was that earlier? And my mother's mother, she was Irish, they said, but her name was Dutch. And my own tall white father's name meant Scotland somewhere. And I really don't know who my family was when they came, but they were here when the country declared itself. And any Canadian family has so many lost stories of where they came from, even if they've spent generations on Turtle Island. And yet, did these people, or my people, feel no guilt? Famous massacres indicate that non-white man was just as likely, just as capable of killing whole families, murdering and raping. Torture's been around forever. Why did the Iroquois torture Jean de Brébeuf? He's a French Jesuit priest from long ago. What did they want? Was it retribution for bringing the Bible? Or the smallpox? Was it to make him stop praying? Was it retribution for what was to come? I'm in grade 5, and we watch a movie about wars between the Indians. Then grade 9, and that teacher who likes young girls. He delights in listing the details. Baptisms by boiling water. I don't want to know. All right, I acknowledge this, that most men and their families, and most colors, creeds, and religions, ethnicities, and for just about any reason you can dream up. Yes, they killed, maimed, tortured, erased entire cultures, and some of them, on both sides, look like me. Yes, and rape is a particular crime where they torture women, mostly. Abominable and leading to a stream of children born. But why an attack specifically on children? Perhaps it's a way to get at various, very specific men and women, but to attack any group for any reason through the children with their little hands. So incapable of wrong, real wrong. Yes, children can be cruel. Yes, it's a well-known fact. We have all seen that. But it is so very much more likely that 90% of the small hands tribe, I might call them, are possessed of innocence, born of ignorance, surely, but a way of looking out at the world that means no one any harm. Children, like animals, perhaps, innocent, kind, drawn to warmth in each other and their mothers and their siblings, and yes, sweet, often, small as they were, they mean no harm. How old were they when they were dragged from home to some holy place where the people doing these good works must have been, or at least somehow, some of them, drawn to doing good? What if you were one of these good smalls and you couldn't find a way to die young, cursed with a strong constitution and able to withstand the disease, the cold, the lack of food, the beatings? Yes, and the other things done to them. Was it worse for boys or girls? It's in movies, books, TV, always the plot twist, and it twists. The nightmares, the awful acts of desecration. of hell made flesh, and flesh made... Was this written anywhere? I need to read a diary, the journals of someone who survived this. They are out there. I know the signs well. We live like that, surviving, or we try to make it stop. Not them, not possible. Us, to make us stop. And if I figured it out at 8 and tried, then maybe some of them did too. I failed, but maybe some of them did not. But my life, school, was not like that. And that's not fair, not right in so many ways. I have a glass of water right here. Who survived and then lived? Survived. And those who did this, in their bigness and their strongness and all their gods by their sides, they did wrong in the name of right? Who witnessed the death of the tribe of the small hands at their hands, the hands of those who maybe looked like me, the hands that buried them, so many of them. My tribe of the small hands. Can I understand their pain? Not all pains. But the power of small hands is that we know, we learn so quickly to survive, unless we don't, or until we don't. I am sorry, so sorry, and must act, otherwise
the fentanyl release. Snore, God, snore. Make some noise. Peddle me a dream. Surf me away with your power and glory. Embrace my scream of courage. I am drowsy for love. Tell me something warm or cast me away like a nickel of shame. The sky is wet with townsfolk chatter. Forget-me-not Wednesday or Ash General Day or any day homogeneous, hometown and typical. Obtain for me that slender time. Extinguish my sorrow under your blue-cast sky. Ply me from this double-think gimmickry world, enchanted with painted sunsets and checkout girls with pink-rouged faces and long brown hair in stores that give away cravings and flaunt your worth in the speck of a mirror. Doff a hat for me. Doff it high in the air and let it sail over the tumble, moody exercise of earth, and fly the randomness of your windy spectacle upon my solace. Never let me slouch, and save me on this unkind day where people shout and push to get their way. Take me for a ride on this white ocean sky with sinewy clouds, immaculate with brilliance, with silver linings and gold crimson smiles. Sigh to me, make some sound, reach me before I wake and flounder like another rag flying along the road in a shapeless mist. Am I in line to see her free and jubilant in the sun? Tell me something undrunk, unfeigned, unflagging, something possible to comprehend. Tell my flowered trinket heart before I plunge off this edge of harsh occurrence and tired light. I have conquered the shores of despair to be pulled back by an undertow uncommon to me. I have been sucked back and slammed into the grainy sands, cut and scratched between huge bashes of unrelenting, lifeless regiment waves, each as soulless as unforgiving. And childhood came in a delicate quiver, popping toast, jam, and butter. The dead-long splendor of all her woman's glory fell off the Milky Way. She felt the spin, wet, cold her face, her instant sweat. She saw the blackness and knew it was wrong. And I said to her, "Rouse your sleepy head from your dance ball gown, O sweetheart of my falling. I will lend the radiance to your cry and hold your hand as we step under the mute sparkle above, as we lose our course and fall to the ground beneath." I saw the blackness and knew it was wrong.
Inside the rooms of holiness. Inside the rooms of holiness, you stand so young and free. You do not live in holiness, and you don't notice me. Inside the rooms of heaven lost, you stand so young and wild. You don't believe in heaven lost, and you think me a child. So I will trade the holy rooms, the heaven lost, for thee, and take you to the dark beyond, and touch you and be free. Where I am from days of endless possibilities, of endless blue sky, of endless fields of corn, canola, and mustard seed, and wheat as far as the eye can see. I am from nights of endless wonderment, of endless stars, planets, galaxies, and the beautiful moon that tortures my hormones. I have survived near death, abuse at the hands of loved ones, and the intense sorrow of being inside the psychiatric system. But always I have hope in my heart, my soul, my head. I am from broken dreams fastened together with the agony of knowing that there is no cure for poverty and loneliness, only the hope I will be heard, that I will be loved. I am the product of DNA, of mystery and magic. I am from parents and education, so I value every lesson that I was taught. I try hard to be loving, humble, stoic, and brave, yet the tears I cry are almost an ocean. I am from one infinite moment. I am never to be forgotten. I am from here, this wonderful, frightening, lost world of ours. I am from here, this wonderful, frightening, redeemed world of ours. I am from you, a reflection of all that is unique. I am a unique particle of God's vast creation. Nothing fits. I am too poor to pay attention. I have no new clothes. Nothing fits in my closet. Nothing fits in my thoughts. I don't get to say what's on my mind. I can't remember everything I do day to day. Nothing fits in my heart. Nothing fits in my soul. My loneliness is not yours. My illness is not either. You can't cure me by passing me by, but you don't notice if I live or die. Nothing fits in my soul. Nothing fits, I feel too old. My art and thoughts are my friends. Poets are the ones who watch and wait, but poets are often just too late to change your mind. Do you have change for me? I don't want it for much. I just am poor, so nothing fits of my clothes. Some are too big, others too old. Nothing fits in my imagination. I stand on the fault line between being old and not noticed. No one sees me on the streetcar unless I cry or piss myself. Then I'm embarrassed because nothing fits to change into. Nothing fits, I feel sad. Nothing fits, but still I'm glad I'm free enough not to judge anyone but me. Perfection. They all patronize perfection in everything they say. They all tell us to be perfect every hour, every day. They all teach us we'll be perfect in everything we do, and no teacher lies about it more perfectly than you. The broken world. I think I've found a purpose for my life, to heal the broken world with words. Words that are strong, words that make sense, words that flow from speaker to listener and heal. Those are the best words that everyone longs to hear.